Let's go to the UK, where an internal dossier leaked from the BBC has shown how the national broadcaster there deliberately edited a Donald Trump speech in order to make it look like Donald Trump had incited a riot. Now, it was a speech that you're probably familiar with. Trump gave it to supporters right before they marched on the Capitol building. We'll show you what the BBC put to air. And what they did was they took something Trump said at the beginning of his speech, and then they cut it so it was joined with something he said at the end of his speech. We'll show you that one first, and then after that, we'll show you what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
So as you can see, the BBC made it look like Trump had inspired them. We're going to go down the Capitol and we're going to fight, when in truth he said nothing of the sort. Now, the dossier claims that when this was put to management refused to accept any problem with what they put to air, which shows just how bad the culture at the BBC is. The dossier was leaked to the UK Telegraph, who published this today, and they've promised to publish more of the dossier, which includes claims of bias in the BBC's coverage of the war in Gaza. I don't know that that would surprise any of us. And censorship of the transgender debate as it's been held in the UK. This brings into question, Caleb, why the government, through taxpayers, would fund the BBC, which is relied upon to be impartial and to be truthful and to act in the national interest, when you've got the BBC telling blatant lies about the leader of England's most important ally.
Well, there is a way to get out of paying for the BBC in the UK. That's to not own a television, because, of course, they make you pay the TV licence over there in order to fund the BBC. So it is just slightly better than how we operate the ABC here in this country. There is a way to get out of it. But, I mean, for goodness sake, everyone has a TV, so everyone pays for the BBC. And it is hard to think... Actually, no, there are other examples. I'll come back to that. But it is hard to think of something more blatant than this, right? And you've seen this done in many ways around Trump, whether it's the editing of Kamala Harris in the United States to make her look more sensible. You know, the interview that Trump did on 60 Minutes that was broadcast the other night, he's now saying large parts of that were edited out, where he was critical of the broadcaster CBS. And then, I mean, you think of here in Australia, and this wasn't a matter of editing, but remember the ABC said they had the story of the century about Russian interference in the 2016 US election. And they carried on as though this was, you know, chapter and verse, the real deal. That was all proven to be absolute guff. Did they ever apologise for that? No. If public broadcasters are allowed to get away with this consistently, and they are allowed to get away with this consistently, why would they not keep doing it? There are no consequences.
Well, they also have no issue arming themselves legally and defending themselves all the way in very costly legal fights when these things do get exposed, because, of course, it's our taxpayer dollars funding the cases, not their own money. But it wasn't just that aspect of the program that was biased. The whole thing was other aspects of the dossier pointed out that in the program they had 10 Trump critics and only one Trump supporter. So already how? And then, moreover, there was no similar program examining Kamala Harris's record. There was nothing critical about her. And this just shows you the obsession that the left-wing media and our public broadcasters have with Trump. They want anything to demonise him, to the point of discrediting themselves, because this time they really have gone too far.
What's really funny about that is you say, you know, there were 10 people interviewed who were anti-Trump versus one person who defended Trump. And yet these national broadcasters famously count how many black people are in each news bulletin, how many women versus men are providing commentary. So very concerned about identity, but not about what perspective they bring in terms of a particular issue.
But it's also the same. Remember during The Voice, the ABC afterwards had to account for how many people they'd had on and how much airtime they'd been given in terms of the yes and the no case. And it turned out that they had far fewer people on the ABC who were anti-Voice than were pro-Voice. But they claimed, because some of them had been given some extra time, as in every individual actually got more airtime who was a no person, only because they had like 5 of them across the entirety of the ABC, that it was actually all fair and it was all balanced. Well, it's not. We know it's not. This is how public broadcasters continually operate. It's just a matter of when is someone going to say we have to pull public broadcasters into line? Whether it's in the US or Australia or the United Kingdom or Europe or wherever, we're paying for this. And in many cases, like in Australia, there is a legislative requirement for them to be impartial. When is someone going to have the guts to pull the levers and say, no, you've got to live up to this standard?
Well, the left won't because they benefit from the bias, and the right won't because they're scared stiff that if they attack the national broadcaster, then it will rebound on them.
Exactly.